Welcome to ASR's IS Institute. This is our website www.asr.com. We upload current affairs here daily. So for the month of November, we upload in 3 sections: news, editorials and question bank. Also we have made the PDFs available on a daily basis on demand from students. So presently looking at news for 24th November, editorials and question bank will be covered in a separate video. So for 24th November, we have picked up 9 news items from the Hindu newspaper. We'll discuss them in detail. The first one, Apex Court slams Center for Lokpal. So first of all, we need to understand what is Lokpal. So Lokpal is an ombudsman system in India. So now what is an ombudsman? The ombudsman is a government functionary who is appointed by the government or parliament. It is a concept from Sweden. So Scandinavian countries initiated this, and this public authority is having sufficient independence and power, and it looks into complaints against public authorities, including even in India the Lokpal established looks into complaints against even the Prime Minister, all the ministers, members of parliament. So it has wide jurisdiction. Even Group A, B, C, D central government officers are all included under it. So this is the idea. The idea was first put forth in India in 1963. Even the first Administrative Reforms Commission in 1966 recommended setting up of Lokpal and Lokayukta at central and state level. Then from 1968 to 2011, we made repeated attempts to get the Lokpal bill passed, but it never saw the light of the day because it could not be passed. It got lapsed also because of government changes. So this never took place. Then in 2005, again the second Administrative Reforms Commission chaired by Mr. Veerappa Moily also recommended that Lokpal and Lokayukta should be established in India without delay. Finally, we saw huge public protests against corruption, even protest dharnas led by Mr. Anna Hazare, Arvind Kejriwal, and finally we saw that the Lokpal bill was passed by Parliament and this became an act in 2013. So this is Lokpal and Lokayukta Act of 2013, which is presently in effect, but it has not been implemented yet. Means a Lokpal has not been set up yet. So what is it that is stalling the establishment of Lokpal even after the act being passed 3 years ago now? So in the Lokpal there are 9 members, a chairman and maximum 8 members. So these 9 members have to be selected by a selection committee. So that provision is also there in the Lokpal, and the selection committee of the Lokpal comprises of 5 members. So amongst these 5 members, one is leader of the opposition in Lok Sabha. And in the present Lok Sabha, after the 2014 elections, there is no leader of the opposition as such, because a leader of the opposition is that leader of a political party in the opposition, the single largest political party in opposition, which gets at least 10% of the total seats. So that is 55 seats in Lok Sabha. But no political party, not even Congress, was able to get that many seats. So that is why this post designation remains vacant. There is no such authority. So that is the reason why the process is not going ahead. And the judiciary, presently the news is that the judiciary is rebuking the center for delaying the establishment of Lokpal on this point. So the judiciary is asking the center that if it's possible, you can take the ordinance route also. So ordinance is an executive order being passed rather than waiting for the parliament, because also Lokpal and Lokayukta amendment bill is also pending in parliament. So take an ordinance route and get this thing done. So that is what a suggestion is given by the judiciary to the center also. So Attorney General representing the center said that why do you think the parliament would not pass? So it's asking for waiting and for the parliament to pass the bill. And also the ordinance route cannot be taken right now, he says, because the parliament is in session. So when parliament is in session, you cannot put forth and you cannot promulgate an ordinance. So we'll have to wait and watch what the government does on this. So looking at the Lokpal and Lokayukta Act also, so Lokpal is for the center and Lokayukta is for the states. So you should remember that Lokayuktas have already been set up. So Lokayuktas were set up even after the first ARC recommendations. So Maharashtra was the first state to have a functioning Lokayukta too. And even in many states, Lokayuktas are there. You keep hearing of Karnataka Lokayukta also in news. So these Lokayuktas are in place and have been functioning. After the Lokpal and Lokayukta bill of 2013, they have been modeled according to the Act, Central Government's Act. So they are functioning. But Lokpal has never been established in India. So this will be the first time this initiative will be put into effect. So this provision is there. The jurisdiction of Lokpal, as I said, includes all ministers, members of parliament, officers. Of course, for Prime Minister, the jurisdiction, there are some restrictions also. So on all aspects, the Prime Minister cannot be put to questioning. So as you can see, the major provisions of Lokpal and Lokayukt Act also discussed here. So it comprises of chairman and maximum 8 members. 50% of the members have to be from judicial background. Also separately, overall from the 100%, 50% should also be SC, ST, OBC, minority and women. So these reservations provisions are also there. Then selection committee of Lokpal, on which the point on which we are stuck, it comprises of 5 members, the Prime Minister, the Speaker, Leader of the Opposition in Lok Sabha, the Chief Justice of India and an eminent jurist. So this is the selection committee. Jurisdiction, as I told you, against all public servants including PM, but of course restrictions on international relations, security, public order, no complaints can come on these aspects, energy, space. So no prior sanction is required for launching prosecution in cases probed by Lokpal or investigated at its instance. So therefore the Lokpal, there is even an investigating body which has been set up, an independent investigation. Also it can forward its investigation to the CBI, investigating agencies too, including CBI, and then it has an independent prosecution wing too. So it will prosecute once the investigation is done. Even prosecution will be done by Lokpal. So that is also there. So even a prosecution, directorate of prosecution has also been provided for in the act. So this prosecutor will report to the CBI director. So it has all been brought together. Also the maximum punishment for corruption under the act is 7 years. So this 7 years was there, it has increased to 10 years. Also minimum punishment for corruption is 2 years. So enhancement of punishments is also there. And of course it is mandatory for every state to set up Lokayukta within a year after the bill has been passed. So from December 2013. So this has been done. So this is of the leader of the opposition, that presently there is no leader of the opposition in Lok Sabha. So that is about the Lokpal bill. Next article in news is PETA urges shift to non-animal produced antitoxins. So PETA, which is People for Ethical Treatment of Animals. Its International Science Consortium is providing funding to undertake a research to produce antitoxins for disease diphtheria without using animals. So presently these antitoxins are produced in India through animals. So the method used is that toxins of this diphtheria, the bacterial disease, is injected into a horse, and the horse then produces antitoxins for this disease. So these antitoxins which are present in the blood of the horse are then derived, separated and used as medicine for people suffering from diphtheria. So this is also exported by India to countries worldwide. So the thing which we see right now is that such practices are very harmful to the animal. The investigation which PETA did to, the visits which it did to farms in India, saw that horses were in very vulnerable condition. They were not given adequate veterinary care. They were suffering from lameness, anemia because of the blood loss also which happens, eye abnormalities, malnutrition. So there's a need to produce these antitoxins without using horses. So horses are presently used as live laboratories to produce antitoxins. So this is the research being done. And to understand diphtheria too, you should know the disease vaccination is also provided to children for this. So it's a bacterial infection in the mucous membranes of the nose and the throat. So it's a respiratory tract infection, upper respiratory tract. So these symptoms, as you can see, are the grey membrane covering which is generally seen covering the throat and the tonsils. So this cause of course is contamination, so bacterial contamination which results in this disease, and of course the drug which has to be provided are these antitoxins provided which cures. Also vaccine is available. So this, as you can see, is how the horses are used for this purpose in India. So this is the toxin injected for diphtheria causing bacteria, and then the antitoxin from the blood which is generated is extracted and used as a medicine. Then the next news item is smog could return. So this is regarding New Delhi, that we are seeing smog, means smoke plus fog, present in Delhi, and it was highly prominent during the month of November. So it also happens because of the winter season. So during this winter times, the temperatures are cool, and this prevents dispersion of the particulate matter and gases as such. So that accumulates and that results in smog. So winter generally results in prominence of smog. Also another thing is that we saw about the agricultural residue burning, crop stubble burning, which results in pollution, for which adequate measures have not been taken on a long-term basis. So presently TERI is saying that the measures which have been taken by the government, so the Energy and Resource Institute, which is also studying this matter, is saying that measures taken are short-term measures. There are long-term measures required to ensure that northern India does not suffer from these problems again. So the short-term measures like construction sites have been closed down, factories been closed down. So all these vehicular emissions also, the provisions put forth are not sufficient. Only the odd even scheme which has been put forth will not work. So there needs to be more long-term comprehensive measures which need to be put into effect. Then the next news item is Himalayan projects face flood risks. So this is regarding the hydropower projects which India has also established in the Himalayan region along with other states, Himalayan states like Nepal, Pakistan, even China. So all these projects, hydroelectric projects which are there established. So this is a dam constructed across the river. So all these projects may face flooding in future because glaciers are melting, and when glaciers melt, then the glacial lakes which are formed at the bottom of the glaciers may have more flow of water into them, which may result in a glacial lake outburst flow. So that is called GLOF, glacial lake outburst floods. So these are a threat to hydroelectric power projects. So when these projects are constructed, they have to take this provision under consideration, that if such floods do occur, they should be able to sustain. So only if these provisions are put into effect, the hydroelectric projects could be sustainable. Otherwise it would result in huge risks associated because of such flooding. So this is a news which has come up, a study which has been done. Also the problem is that on this Himalayan region there is not sufficient data available. So paucity of data regarding health of Himalayan glaciers is also a concern. Also India has established a program. This is Indian Himalayas Climate Adaptation Program. So it's a coordinated research into Himalayan regions, the glaciers here, and their potential impact on downstream flow also. So this is very essential. Research is very essential to bring out the idea about how global warming is going to affect Himalayan glaciers too. If melting also takes place, then effective measures can also be put into effect. Then the next news item is CAG flags tax breaks for companies. So this is regarding CAG, Comptroller and Auditor General of India, which conducts audits on the accounts of various government departments. So on the accounts of Income Tax Department, the auditing has brought to the fore that the tax exemptions which IT department gave to various companies which are provided for infrastructure projects have resulted in huge taxation losses. So various companies given, the largest beneficiary in this case is Reliance Industries Limited. So the infrastructures which were constructed by these companies, so these, in the case of Reliance too, also it was railway sidings and jetties which it constructed for to and fro in its project. So these infrastructure projects were used only for private purpose, means only the company could use those services. So it's a private investment in a private infrastructure project. So such infrastructure projects cannot be given exemptions under section 80IA of IT Act. But the IT department says that there is no clarity mentioned there that whether it should be a public facility or a private facility. It is an infrastructure project. It is used for private purposes, another matter. So the IT department gives such justifications, but the CAG has reprimanded and said that this cannot be allowed, and this has resulted in irregular allowances and deductions given in taxation, which is to the effect of 2066 crores to Reliance only. Even other companies reprimanded are Aditya Birla Group company, SL Mining. So all these companies were given tax exemptions for infrastructure projects, but those infrastructure projects were private facilities. So this is like you construct a house and you live in it, and you call it an infrastructure project, which is actually for public purpose. So benefit is given, tax exemption is given because infrastructure would be for public purpose, but that is not the case here. So the CAG has clearly pointed out that section 80IA exemptions, deductions cannot be given for private facilities of infrastructure projects or captive facilities. So captive facilities also basically means that a service is outsourced to a wholly owned subsidiary of that company, not to a third party vendor. So in those cases too, that services will be used only by that company. So all those are not exempted under infrastructure projects. So this has been clearly put forth. This has resulted, even in the case of Reliance, it has resulted in total aggregate deductions to be of 5,245.38 crores, which is the loss to the government and the taxation loss. Then the next news item is Nalanda University gets new governing board. So the Nalanda University, which is in Bihar, which was an ancient Buddhist university, a seat of learning where even foreigners came and studied here. We know about even the Chinese pilgrims. Wan Sang has visited Nalanda University. So this is Nalanda up here, and a new Nalanda University presently has been established under an act of the parliament. So this Nalanda University is located here in Rajgir, which was also a former capital of Magad Empire. So Rajgir. Later it became Patna. So this is Rajgir here, and also here is Pavapuri. Pavapuri is also a site which has Jain temples, as is known for the place where the 24th Jain Tirthankara, Mahavira, achieved Nirvana. So this is Pavapuri also in this Nalanda district in Bihar. So these are important places, and this is the Nalanda University. Nalanda University, presently it went into ruins. Presently it's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So it's under Archaeological Survey of India, and this is the fresh Nalanda University which has been established. Infrastructure development is being undertaken, and by 2020 the university will be completely functional, but the classes have commenced. So this has started. Presently what has been done is, when the Nalanda University Act was passed in 2010, a Nalanda Mentors Group was established, which will look into the functioning of the Nalanda University for some time frame. So it was given 1 year time, but that Nalanda Mentors Group has been extended for a year till now. So now present government has extended, this extension has been dissolved, and the entire Nalanda Mentors Group has been dissolved, so that a governing body which is provided to be established under the University Act will be established. So this is the provision, steps which have been taken by the government to bring the act into effect. So this is the news. But anyway, that is fine. The Ministry of External Affairs is the administrative ministry for this university. Even the new governing board which the government is planning to establish will have members from not just India but even China, Australia, Laos, Thailand. So these Southeast Asian countries like Laos, Thailand also have prominent Buddhist population. So these members will also be a part of this governing body. Then the next news item is Britain tightens visa regulation. So after Brexit, we are seeing that Britain is moving towards protectionism. So the politics in Britain presently is pro-protectionism, means migrants are not welcome. So it's made its visa regulations stricter. Already in start of 2016, the salary threshold for Tier 2 visas was increased. So Tier 2 visa is the most common form of visa which is availed by non-EU migrants. So all Indian migrants also get visa under this. So the salary threshold for this was increased. Even it is proposed to be increased further. So this will make it very difficult to avail this visa. Salary threshold means if you are getting maximum this much pounds of annual salary, only then you can avail this visa. So that will make many Indians excluded from availing Tier 2 visa. Also in 2016, they have already made English language requirements compulsory for family members of all non-EU migrants. So all these are of course targeting particular community with migrants from particular countries, India and Pakistan especially. So this is being highlighted. Also another aspect which is criticized is all these strict visa restrictions are going to backfire on Britain as well, because they do not have enough skilled workers. So if they are going to bring in protectionism and exclude migrants from India who have contributed towards the IT sector and development of the economy in Britain, there would be a lacuna coming up here, because the skilled manpower is not available in UK itself. So we'll have to wait and watch how the relations between India and Britain also go ahead, and what will be the implications of these strict visa restrictions. Then the next news item is Bangladesh seeks peaceful solution to Rohingya crisis. So Rohingya Muslims, who are a community here in Rakhine province in Myanmar, former name of Myanmar is Burma. So these Rakhine Muslims are seen to be outsiders in Myanmar. They look also different. So they have been persecuted, and even terrorist activities which have been seen here are resulting in Myanmar government, army and police force been harshly coming down on this Rakhine state, because of which people are migrating from this region in various directions towards Southeast Asia, and many are going to Bangladesh because it is the nearest country to them. So Bangladesh has also closed its borders now. It has a huge amount of number of Rohingya Muslims who have come in its country, and now it has closed borders, and the police forces in Bangladesh to send back the Rohingya Muslims who try to sail across from Myanmar into Bangladesh, because that is the route which they are now using. So even the UNHRC, United Nations Commissioner on Refugees, has said that Bangladesh should keep its borders open for Rohingyas, and Bangladesh on its part is asking Myanmar to take this into consideration and look into the issue so that these exodus of Rohingya Muslims does not take place. So it is asking Myanmar to solve the crisis, bring out a peaceful solution to the matter. Then this last news item is SEBI eases rules for angel funds. So angel funds. So angel investors are people who invest their own money in startup companies. So these angel investors rules have been relaxed by the SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India, which is the regulating authority presently. So the rules earlier under the scheme which was there for angel investors too, there were 49 investors maximum allowed. Now they have been increased to 200. Even the angel funds are now allowed to invest in startups within 5 years. So within 5 years of the startup's establishment. Earlier it was only up to 3 years that angel investors could invest. Then another requirement was of minimum investment being done by them. Earlier it was 50 lakh, now it has been reduced to 25 lakh. Also there was a lock-in period for investments, that you cannot take back your investment. So that earlier it was 3 years, now it has been reduced to 1 year. So this is making it attractive for angel funds to invest in startups in India. So this has been put into effect. Another provision is regarding FIIs. So foreign institutional investors, also known as foreign portfolio investors. So these FIIs have been attracted to invest in India. So even unlisted non-convertible debentures and securitized debt instruments of public or private companies can also be invested in by FIIs. So what does this term mean? Non-convertible debenture. So debenture is a private company giving a bond. So generally we see here of government bond. So this debenture is of a company's bond. So these companies which are giving a bond, not a government bond. So these debentures are non-convertible. Non-convertible means they cannot be converted into stock of the company. So in lieu of repayment. So then in such non-convertible debentures, generally the interest rate is high. So such non-convertible debentures investment is also allowed by FIIs now. Earlier it was allowed only in infrastructure sector. Now it has been extended to other sectors too. Plus it is having a minimum residual maturity, means that investment should stay for a particular period of time, and that is 3 years. So this is also there, and there are restrictions on where this investment would go. So that would be for real estate business, capital market, and purchase of land. So only for these purposes this investment can be used. So this is another provision relaxation which has come forth from SEBI. And the last one is exchange disclosure. So this is regarding the exchange agreement which is done between the management of a company and its shareholders because of certain compensation or share being provided to its employees. So this is an exchange agreement between them. So this is to be disclosed to the stock exchanges too. So this has been provided for by the SEBI right now. So it has ruled that such agreements should be disclosed. So these three provisions are in use. SEBI regulations. This is the difference between angel investors and venture capitalists too. So angel investor is one who invests his own money, and a venture capitalist is one who invests money of others in a hope to get a handsome return. So both are investing capital. Only difference is that angel investor is an individual person who is investing his own money. So that is the difference. And as we spoke about non-convertible debentures too mentioned here. So that is all for today. Thank you so much.